Hello, today I'm at St Michael's the Archangel Church in Woodham Walter in Essex, and I'd like to talk to you about the village history and the church. So Woodham Walter is a small village 3 miles from Malden in Essex. It's surrounded by rolling hills and farmland, and the population is 619 or thereabouts, and the elevation is around 32 metres. The village was first recorded as Woodham in 875, meaning village in the wood. The modern name derives from the FitzWalter family, who owned Woodham Walter Hall. It's believed that there was a settlement here dating to 1000 BC in the Iron Age period, where tools were discovered at a local farm in 1991. Also, a hoard of silver coins were found dating to the 7th century. That's the time of around St Ced. So we can be sure that Woodham Walter has been a settlement for almost 3000 years. Now, during the Saxon period, there was one manor, and the Thane, who was called Leofever, and by 1086 Frederick Pontel had replaced Leofever as Lord of the Manor, and Ralph Baynard was the powerful tenant-in-chief. Now we know that there were 6 villagers at this time, and there were 4 smallholders and 4 slaves. Along with 4 plough teams, and it was a huge amount of pigs. They stated 521 to be precise, and 130 sheep, plus 2 mills. So it would have been a very busy small rural village. Now the Saxon manor house stood half a mile from here, from this church, and Woodham Walter Hall would then replace the old manor house. Now the moat and the hall and the church are all but gone. The church would have been from around the 12th century. And the long line of FitzWalters would have lived there. Now if we pick one, for example, Robert FitzWalter, he was born here in Woodham Walter in 1182. His descendants were related to Henry II and the Normans. And he would himself become the leader of the Barons' revolt against King John. He became a signer of the Magna Carta in 1215. Now in 1237, the next FitzWalter was Sir Walter, who would enlarge the deer park here. And it was described as a great deer park, and there was also a separate red deer park. And this deer park and the manor house would remain with the FitzWalters for generations, all the way up to 1431. And this is when the male line ended. And a move position. Oh. I've done very well getting up this hill. It's quite a hill. Now after the FitzWalters ended their ownership of this area in 1431, the Radcliffe family would take over. Until a John Radcliffe was treasonous against King Henry VII, and he was swiftly beheaded. 9 years later, his son Thomas would be made Viscount FitzWalter, and he would go on to become Earl of Sussex. By the time of the fourth Earl, the family had fallen into debt, and Woodham Walter Hall was on lease to Sir William Finch, 1638. By the end of this century, the old hall had been demolished. Look at this old latch, it's great, isn't it? All character. Gonna change position. Now straight ahead of us is the village itself. Now after the hall was demolished, the estate was split up and sold. And in 1745 the old estate was sold and basically broken up into small farms. By 1875 there was an established village here which had developed with a post office, a school, a baker's, a butcher's and a beer shop. And moving forward till today, Woodham Walter has 3 pubs, the Bell, the Queen Victoria, and they sit proud at the where the camera's pointed. And there's another pub called the Cat's Pub, which is slightly outside. Now the Bell Pub, which is basically there, was built around the same time as St Michael's. Now we can thank Thomas Radcliffe, Earl of Sussex, for on the 26th of June 1562 he obtained a licence from Queen Elizabeth I to build the church we see today. And interestingly, Queen Mary spent over a month staying at the old hall before she became queen. There's an immense amount of history here. So now we should focus on the church itself. Well, let me get in position. So St Michael's the Archangel, or I believe it's St Michael's to some, was built in 1563, and it was described as the only Elizabethan period church in Essex and only 6 in existence in England. The original church was known as St Nicholas and was named in the last will and testament of local resident Thomas Hawking of 1454. The original church would have been standing where the old manor house would have been. It's about half a mile from here. Now this whole church, what you see today, was built more or less in one time. It was consecrated the next year in 1564. So we pass this avenue of trees. Now what we see before us now is the north aisle, and this is 38 feet by 12 feet. And inside, when we go in there, you'll see the original church timbers were used, reused in the roof. This extension here, I believe, is from a more recent period, possibly Georgian or Victorian, not sure. And you can see the village in front of us. It's at the bottom of the hill. Now this is the north doorway. This is 16th century. And you can see this is most likely to be the original door. Possibly from this church itself. If you look at the base, you can see where it's had damp problems and they've cut a renovation. It's self-explanatory. So we've got like a pine porch, or these old doors fascinate me. And if you look in the corner there, you can see how they've supported it over the years. Washers, it's great, isn't it? You can see it's had a lot of damp problems. It's obviously very old. Not surprising. Now, that's better. So this is the north aisle. And you can see the reuse of the timbers up there. As you come in, you've got the notice board there. And looks like a sketch of the church as it was. And then you've got the memorial to those who fell in World War I, and it's quite a lot when you look at the size of the village here. And we've still got the remnants of the coronavirus period. Now this font is 15th century. You can see it's been clumped there at some period. It's got a really interesting oak cover there, which is Victorian. What I like about it is it's got a chain that allows it to be raised. So you can imagine this would be incredibly heavy. I'm not going to lift it much, but you can see this system That allows the priest, I guess, to raise it easily. So this chancel and nave measures 63.5 feet by 21 feet. And again, you can see the reuse of the timbers up there. So they've been dragged half a mile, especially these major beams. Now, if we look up here, we've got a royal coat of arms. Now, this is from 1660, and you can clearly see that at the base. Now, the royal coat of arms is from Charles II. And in this year, Charles had just returned from 9 years in exile in France. In 1660, Charles was invited back to London to his father's throne. And we have a memorial here, I believe to a scientist. So it's really nicely done. It's all made in copper. You can see him looking through the telescope there, or the microscope, shall I say. Then we have an oak carving. I am the true vine there, it says. Now this is the south doorway here. And it's the original south doorway access, and now it's an extension and toilets on the other side. It's one of the old floor slabs there. You can see where the brass plates of the family crests have been pulled out over the years. You can see where the feet have worn it out. Now, this window here, it's medieval stained glass. There are 7 roundels and suns in splendour. This is 15th century. So I'm going to zoom up on that. So I would say that's most likely related to the previous church. Now, if we look over here, we have the pulpit. This is from 1879. Now, the original pulpit from 1768, so it's over 100 years before this one. It was donated by a Thomas Fitch, and he's buried in the vestry, which is through that door there. In 1879, St Michael's was closed for 1 year, and a major repairs and alterations were taking place. Thomas's pulpit was destroyed and replaced with this one. See if I have a little look up here. Not sure if I'm meant to be up here, but gives you an idea. The priest has got a good view of the congregation. And there's an old slab there, burial there. This is Priscilla, who was wife of John Wiseman. And this is from 1647. She came from Tolson Darcy, which is not too far from here. And we've got these poppy heads, I believe, pews. I guess these would be for the choir, perhaps. Now these pews and the tiles were from the time of the renovation, which is 1879. Now then, straight ahead, you can notice there's a lot of oak screens, and these are from 1894, and these were actually from a man called Chilton Newburn, who carved these screens in memory of his wife Emily, and he would spend 4 years carving screens throughout the church. So we're going to go up to the sacred area of the church, and you can see the lovely work he's done there. And if you come up there, you can see the bracket there. Let me have a look. You can see it's got the vine in there. And today this is where they keep the Bibles there. And you can see it's gone all the way round. So he's obviously done this as a love for his craftsmanship. And then you've got the Lord's Prayer there, which is carved in there as well. The story of Exodus. Not sure if he painted it as well. Looks like in gold leaf. It's done fantastically. And you can follow it all the way around, so you can see how it took him so long. Each panel's been individually done. You've got the 10 Commandments there. And there's something there as well. Oh, it looks like he's done a memorial carving there for Robert Henry Faulkner. Faulkner was a rector here. So yeah, fantastic. And as you know, I do like my stained glass windows. Moses, 10 Commandments. Guess that's Abraham with his son. Took him up to Mount Sinai. Must be Adam and Eve, I guess. Not going to pretend to know all this, but yeah, the bees are coming out now. Now then. So this is the doorway, the original doorway to the, where are we? Vestry. And you've got a stone in there, which is inscribed with a date, 1563. They're not sure if this P is the actual builder's initial. And then you've got some memorials on the north wall. And I believe this is the most sacred place to be buried along this wall. Have your memorial on this wall here. It looks like there's a very ancient slab there. Now this one here, another bee there. So this slab here is tomb of Lady FitzWalter, said to be around the 17th century. And I did coincidentally find a lady, Elizabeth FitzWalter, who died here in 1485, and she was married to the 9th Baron, John FitzWalter. So I'm not sure if there's a connection there. So we shall make our way round to this lovely organ. Now this organ is from 1880 and it was donated by Clarissa Livermore in memory of her brother Benjamin. Now it's made by Bevington and Sons, and you can see that on there. There's the plaques to mind you of who donated it. Basically, Bevington and Sons, Henry and Martin were the sons of Henry Bevington, and they would have built this fine organ. It was built in Rose Street in Soho in London. Bevington organs can be found as far away as Australia, Africa, and Italy, and I also found one in All Saints Church in Ootling, not far from here. There's another bit of ancient stained glass window. And then we have the list of the rectors, patrons. So the first one is William Sutton, 1369. Now, these piers, which you can see here, have been painted, I guess, in lime. They date from around 1450, and they were moved half a mile from the original church. There's some really interesting graffiti of the name of William Barton, which appears in various styles. His name appears in 1471, and he was pardoned for offences committed. Let's have a look, get a bit closer. He was pardoned for offences committed before the 7th of July, 1471. And was it this offence? Did he commit this graffiti? So let's have a closer look. So 1471. Is that Barton? Yeah, Barton. That's a more modern one. But yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? Wow, that's impressive. Still there. Now, right up in front of us, we've got the gallery, or the original gallery was up there. If you look at where that crosses and these timbers. So there used to be, let me go over here. There was a gallery here. It's built in 1700, and it was to accommodate an orchestra. So it would have been above us. And this gallery was used for the orchestra also in the 18th and 19th centuries. Now, a school was held underneath here. In 1833, there were 96 pupils on the roll here, and a Reverend Bryan was the rector here, and he would be for 50 years. And he was also a teacher of the children in 1833. And we can have a little look. So today, this area is used still as a community area. and you can hear the mechanics upstairs. And these beams here, these props that support the belfry, are believed to be the original or the oldest part of the church, and or at least some of the structure upstairs, and there's some old pictures there. And this goes into detail about the wood carvings, I believe. And we should go outside. Always, steps always catch me out, every time. This avenue of trees, during World War II, due to the blackout conditions, white lines were painted on this avenue of trees, so you could see in the dark. Now then, up the top there you've got the crow's, I believe it's called crow's feet step design. I'm not sure of that one, might have got that wrong. Now this is for the memory of the soldiers in World War I. Now this clock was fitted in the 1920s, the belfry clock, and 2 years before World War II the old clock was resurfaced, and doesn't it look good after all these years? You can see the Tudor brick there is holding up really well. Now there's the more recent addition. The old south porch was dismantled and it used to be the meeting place. Since the village is set on the south side, so there's not a lot going on this side, and down there is the main village. The porch fell out of use, plus Woodham Walter Hall was no more by 1700. And you can see how deep the land is here, how it's cut into it. And you can actually see up there where it's all been, alterations have taken place. You can see all the different brickwork. In fact, down the base here, it's almost quite modern, this section here. This is to mimic, this is to copy the Tudor brick. It's the right dimensions, but it's too new. And it looks like you've got some Victorian brick there, and then you've got the original Tudor brick there. Now, in the village, there was two almshouses that were built in 1908, and they were built by Reverend Falconer's sons in memory of their father, who was rector here for 32 years. Now we're on the north wall, and you can see the medieval glass, possibly from the original church, most likely. You can see some of the dates on these headstones. 1745. So these are all 18th century, around the time of Dick Turpin. 1749, 1738. Now up in the belfry there are we've got a Henry Jordan bell of 1470, it's incredibly old. Now in 1470 the War of the Roses took place and the House of York defeats the House of Lancaster in Leicestershire. We've also got a Miles Grey bell of 1676. This was the last of the Grey bell founders. They were all called Miles Grey, and he took over from his grandfather and he worked in 3 counties. Now, this is the south wall of the chancel, and if you have a look you can see all the alterations, and again different types of brickwork, medieval, Victorian, and the window jambs tracery are all Victorian. You can see it's just too clean. You can see how they've put in various bit of masonry from the past. Now this would have been possibly the original south door of the priest. It's been blocked up. So this was blocked up or bricked up in 1795. It's likely that it may have well been connected to the hall, Woodham Walter Hall, which is, if I show you where that would have been. So Woodham Walter Hall, if you can see that building there, it's basically that tree line there. So that's where Lords of the Manor would have approached this church from a very long time. So today, St Michael's the Archangel Church is very active within the community. They carry out baptisms and weddings and funerals, and it's in a joint benefice with St Margaret's of Woodham Walter, which is only 2 miles away. Now, both churches share the same priest and the organist, who I actually met today. And then you can see now on the east side. Now it is a lovely part of Essex to visit, and it's recommended to pop in and have a look at the church and also visit some of the pubs here as well. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much.